Hi, welcome to Cargo Film Presents. I'm Dave.
And I'm Dan.
On Cargo Film Presents, we talk about films in the Cargo Film library that you can watch on platforms around the world. Today, we'll be talking about a film entitled Homeless or Umless. It's spelled Homme and Less, referencing the word for man, in French. It's directed by Thomas Wirthensohn, and the film documents a New Yorker, Mark Ray, as he walks the streets of Manhattan looking like $1,000,000, wearing designer suits, expensive leather shoes. He seems to be living the life and works in the glamorous fashion industry as a male model and photographer. He's charming, good looking, eloquent, and seems to have a lot going for him, except that late at night, he goes to a place where the American dream is turned into a nightmare, as he is homeless and sleeps under a tarp on the roof of an apartment building illegally.
Yeah, that's right. His motto is follow your bliss, but be prepared to live your nightmare. Yeah, he's such an intriguing character. You know, an observational portrait of a kind of stranger than fiction New York story. And I when we first began representing this film, I remember I was in Chelsea at some art gallery openings with my wife, and we were checking out some of the work, and I turn around and who's there? And of course it was Mark Ray, looking like $1,000,000 and drinking some of the free wine and free food that was available. So yeah, he's a kind of a fixture around New York, and this film does dive into his double life.
Yeah, it really does. And, well, the film, I guess, it is a metaphor of, the struggles of the middle class in expensive cities like New York, and the lengths people will go to, to kind of live their dream. But at its best, or, one of the better elements of the film is this real relationship that is documented between New York City and one of its residents. It's New York is not just a backdrop, but it's almost like a character in the film. It kind of dictates the direction that Mark's life is going to go in. It documents the joy and the pain, the success and the failures, and it's New York is there teasing and prodding him the entire way. So. For anyone who's ever lived in a big city like New York, we can all relate to that experience. And that's why I love the tagline that our Japanese partners came up for the film in their marketing campaign. It's the man who slept with New York.
That's right. It's a great tagline. And I guess the, part of the irony is, Mark is incredibly, incredibly open, with the filmmaker and the filmmaking team, which is Thomas Wirthensohn, his friend, and they were, I guess, male models together in the '80s and stayed friends. And so Thomas, Mark let Thomas in to film his story, and Mark opens up that certainly living on a rooftop crimps his sex life a lot. He talks about in the film. So I suppose that's the irony. Even though he's sleeping in New York in one sense, in another, he's struggling.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's why this film works. While it sounds kind of dispiriting that you follow this essentially homeless person through the course of the movie, it works because Mark Ray, as a person, is still having meaningful life experiences throughout, and he's still getting the most out of his life despite all these hardships and challenges. There's this wonderful sequence I remember that brought a tear to my eye, where he takes his job as a Santa Claus. I don't know, it's some event, and the kids just are loving him, and you can see how much that experience means to him, and it's that juxtaposed with his living conditions. He's just undeterred and just will give it, give it his all to be the best Santa these kids have ever seen.
Yeah, it is. It does really have those really beautiful moments in it. It is not just a kind of dour and depressing story. I mean, it really does show you the sort of highs and lows of New York, living in that precarious position of being a creative or an inspiring artist that, I guess, which also maybe the pandemic has sort of thrown into sharp relief,
Right.
how tough New York tough, right? Like how tough you need to
Right.
be to survive in a big city. And I guess we should also say that, what makes the film interesting and Mark, interesting psychologically as a character. I mean, he's very self-aware about his homelessness, and he sort of recognizes that this is a choice he's made. And, as we know, like most of the homeless population in New York and other places are people of color and, people with mental health issues. And
Mm-hmm.
Mark is very much like, this is a choice that I've made. I want to, pursue this life of glamour and fashion and everything. And like, this is what, how far I'm willing to go for that.
Yeah, exactly. He doesn't feel sorry for himself, and even though it might puzzle some people as to why he's making these sacrifices to live this kind of life, you know what? Don't judge. Just go along for the ride, and he's a really compelling character, and you'll enjoy spending time with him. And ultimately, it is a joyous story, even though, as we said, it references some of the dark underbelly of living in American cities. And it's beautifully and elegantly made with a lot of care and attention. It's also scored by Kyle Eastwood, who's the son of Clint. So check it out on iTunes, Amazon. Excuse me, not iTunes. It's on Amazon and Vimeo. And here's the clip.
And
Did you want to say
just want to
something
add
else?
one more fun note is that Mumford & Sons, the band, they loved the film so much that they used footage from the film in the video for Tompkins Square Park from one of their albums. So it's a little fun one for you.